Since you mentioned the payment scheme that you used, that was the first time I've ever encountered something that explicitly requests that the person acknowledge and quantify their privilege monetarily. Um, and that, no matter how much book learning or how much lived experience a person has, as a white person, being able to take that moment to realize, you think about the money that's in your bank account as being yours, as being like a product of your life. And that simple request forced me to look at it as historical. The fact that it's there is actually attributed to things that have gone back for hundreds of years. And that was great learning. Like that's just such an effective tool to just simply and subtly point out, look, like here is something. You white folks are always asking for things that you can do. Here's something you can do. And it just really, I really respected that. That's how I kind of knew from the beginning that this was going to be a really worthwhile space, because that's such a radical introduction. Before you even get into the classroom, you're confronting major issues. And that was very exciting for me. As far as what it gives me, I think I might tell an anecdote, if that's okay. I'll be kind of try to keep it brief. But when I was starting my education to become a therapist, I had to do a certificate, which was spread over a couple of weekends. And for some reason going in, I decided that I wasn't going to out myself as trans. I was going to just go in as a woman and be a part of this group and see what that was like to just be. And we got through about half the day, and then I was misgendered by somebody in the class. And of course, it wrecked my mindset, because I had this whole fantasy built up about just being able to exist without my transness. And since then, I've come to understand that that's so violent against my identity, against myself, to expect myself to leave my transness outside of the door. And I think that's what Artian has given me, is given me a way to see how my transness and my therapy self can be brought into the same room without educating. Because then after I confronted it and had to disclose that, I was kind of forced out of the closet, and I had to say what pronouns I required, or that I prefer. The facilitator for the course said, "Oh, thank you so much for clearing that up. There was a tension in the air. I could feel it." And I thought, wow. So I just created tension by just coming into a room. And I know that's an experience that a lot of minorities can relate to. A lot of people with protected identities know what it's like to walk in and feel the energy shift. But I had been able to fool myself that didn't happen to me. And it was a big wake-up call. And I think Artian's given me a chance to come into the room and not feel like I'm changing the energy, and not feel like I had to tuck part of myself away and just pretend that it's not part of who I am, and that I can be whole in my space, in all my awkwardness and all my everything all at once. And it's okay. And that I can hold a space for other people to do that as well. It actually feels amazing to be able to hold that space for other people, and to be able to appreciate people for their wholeness within the
I think that what you've touched on there that has hit something for me is moving into a space and just being seen without having to say, I'm also this. And no, you've got that wrong, not that. And then having to deal with people's defensiveness, people's huge apology, having to then give a lesson of just being able to relax into a space and be seen, and see yourself reflected back in other people in the space, and to be able to really deeply connect with other trans people, other disabled people, other queer people, And I know for others that will mean, connecting with other Black people and therapists of colour, and other working class therapists. And there is something so healing simply sharing a space with therapists where your identity is mirrored. I think RTN really does do that. Of you're not alone.
Yeah. And that's really the overwhelming thing, isn't it? That idea that you're not alone. That's really what it gives. And, I know that I don't know everything about everything, of course. But when you're the only person who's different in the room, then any conversations about progressiveness can only go so far as you know them. And so being in a space where I can learn from others as well and further myself, rather than always being the one catching everyone up to me at this stage where I can't, it's hard to go forward. And so it feels like you're really pushing me forward, and that feels really good. Thank you.
I do share a lot that's been mentioned, especially about the redistribution of resources, of knowledge, and I really do hope this develops and takes even more shape than it already has been, because it's already in place, but I feel it's developing, and I'm really excited to see where this goes and how it develops, and how we continue trying to work in this anti-oppressive, anti-capitalist, participative way. And I guess in a more selfish way, for my own personal interests, I really do hope for development of all these support spaces. And I know we already have 2, maybe 3 support groups that I hope are going really well. And I kind of very briefly mentioned with Sage, I think a while ago, about doing something for mixed, multicultural people or mixed people. I'm hoping for that, to see what comes of that, really. And what you just said, Veronica, really mirrors what I feel as well, that I can find a space here to learn and to further my thinking, instead of having to explain basic things a lot and repeat them a lot. So I think for us as humans and as practitioners, is going to be hugely beneficial. And I hope that continues, to find this place to reflect with others with the same ideas.
My hope is a really simple one in that space, and that is simply that more therapists and counsellors and trainee therapists and counsellors are able to access this space, access the training, the community, the support groups, the learning, and the gentle challenges. I feel it's bringing me on so far in my practice and as a person. I just hope more and more that this becomes an increasing model for good practice, almost to the point, dare I say it, where it doesn't need to be termed radical anymore, because it becomes standard practice. That's what I have a heart full of hope about.